The fluorescent lights of the downtown police precinct cast harsh shadows across worn linoleum floors. Officer Marcus Chen watched through the one-way glass as his partner processed the arrest. The woman sat motionless in the interrogation room, hands cuffed behind her back. Wearing a Navy uniform that looked authentic down to every last detail. "Another one?" Chen muttered to Sergeant Davis, who stood beside him reviewing the incident report. "Third stolen Valor case this month." Davis nodded, his weathered face showing disgust. "Yeah, but this one's bold. Full dress blues, medals, the whole package. Someone spotted her at the Veterans Parade downtown and called it in." The woman in the interrogation room appeared to be in her late 30s. Dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun, posture military straight despite the handcuffs. Her uniform bore the insignia of a Navy commander, with service ribbons arranged in precise rows across her chest. Among them, several commendations that would indicate distinguished service. "What tipped them off?" Chen asked. "A witness said something didn't feel right." Claimed to be a retired Marine, said her story about her service didn't add up. When pressed for details, she apparently got evasive. Chen studied the woman through the glass. Unlike other stolen Valor cases he had worked, she showed no signs of nervousness or guilt. No fidgeting, no defensive body language. She simply sat there, eyes forward, breathing steady. "You run her ID yet?" Davis consulted his tablet. Sarah Mitchell, age 38. Address checks out to an apartment in the Northwest District. No criminal record. No military service record we can find. No service record at all. Nothing in the standard databases. Either she never served or someone scrubbed her clean. Chen frowned. That was unusual. Even dishonorably discharged personnel left traces in the system. "Let me talk to her." He entered the interrogation room, closing the door behind him with a soft click. The woman's eyes tracked his movement, but her head remained still. "Miss Mitchell," Chen began, taking a seat across from her. "I'm Officer Chen. Do you understand why you're here?" "Yes," she replied. Her voice was level, controlled. No tremor of fear or indignation. "You were arrested for impersonating a military officer, specifically wearing a Navy uniform with medals and insignia you have no legal right to wear. This is a federal offense, I understand." Chen waited for more. An explanation, a denial, anger. Nothing came. "Is there anything you'd like to tell me about the uniform you're wearing?" "I'd like to make a phone call." "You'll get your call. But first, let's talk about where you got this uniform. These medals." Mitchell's gaze remained steady. "I invoke my right to remain silent until I can contact my attorney." Chen leaned back in his chair. Most people arrested for stolen Valor couldn't wait to explain themselves, to justify their actions with stories of wanting respect or honoring dead relatives. This woman's calm invocation of her rights suggested something different. "Miss Mitchell, stolen Valor is a serious crime. If you cooperate now, explain the circumstances, it could help your case. I want to make my phone call." Chen studied her for a long moment, then stood. "All right, you'll get your call." Back in the observation room, Davis looked up from his tablet. "Well, she's not talking." Lawyered up immediately. Chen crossed his arms. "Something's off about this one." "How so?" "She's too calm, too controlled. Every other stolen Valor case, they're either defensive or apologetic. She's neither." Davis shrugged. "Maybe she's done this before. Some people make a habit of it. You said no criminal record. First time getting caught, then?" Chen wasn't convinced, but he had no concrete reason for his unease. "Let her make her call. See who she contacts." In the interrogation room, Mitchell was provided with a phone. Instead of dialing a lawyer, she entered a number from memory. The call connected after 2 rings. "This is Mitchell," she said quietly. Authorization code Sierra Whisper 779. A pause as she listened. Detained. Local police. Downtown precinct. Another pause. Understood. She ended the call and set the phone down. Her expression hadn't changed throughout the brief conversation. Chen, who had been listening on the room's audio feed, exchanged glances with Davis. That didn't sound like a lawyer. Authorization code. Davis frowned. What the hell was that about? Before Chen could respond, the precinct's front desk officer appeared in the doorway. Sarge, we've got a situation. There's a Navy admiral here demanding to see the commander of this precinct. He's asking about a detainee. Davis's eyebrows rose. An admiral here? Yes, sir. Full dress uniform. He arrived about 2 minutes ago with a security detail. Chen felt his unease deepen. How would an admiral know we have someone in custody? We haven't even processed the paperwork yet. The desk officer shook his head. I don't know, but he seems pretty insistent. Captain Reeves is on his way down now. Within minutes, the precinct's commanding officer, Captain Reeves, appeared in the observation room. His expression tense. Someone want to tell me why there's a 2-star admiral in my lobby demanding immediate access to a detainee. Davis handed over the tablet with Mitchell's information. Stolen Valor arrest, sir. Woman wearing Navy commander's uniform. Multiple medals. No service record we can find. Reeves scanned the report, his frown deepening. And an admiral shows up within minutes of her phone call. Seems that way, sir. Did she call him directly? Chen shook his head. Called a number, gave an authorization code. That's all. Reeves looked through the one-way glass at Mitchell, who sat exactly as she had before, unchanged and unmoved. Something's not right here. I'm going to talk to this admiral. You two stay with the detainee. The precinct lobby had cleared of its usual chaos. Officers stood at attention as Admiral James Kellerman strode through the space. His uniform immaculate, 2 stars gleaming on his shoulders. Two Navy security personnel flanked him, their presence adding weight to the moment. Captain Reeves met him halfway, extending his hand. Admiral Kellerman, I'm Captain Reeves, commanding officer of this precinct. How can I help you, sir? Kellerman's handshake was firm. Captain, I understand you're holding one of my people. Your people, sir. Commander Sarah Mitchell. I need to see her immediately. Reeves kept his expression neutral, despite his confusion. Admiral, with respect, we arrested Miss Mitchell for stolen valor. Our records show no military service. Something flickered in Kellerman's eyes. Captain, I need to speak with Commander Mitchell in private. After that, I'll explain everything to your satisfaction. Sir, she's in custody for a federal offense. I'm aware. And I'm telling you that your records are incomplete. Kellerman's tone left no room for argument. 5 minutes, Captain. That's all I'm asking. Reeves considered his options. Refusing a 2-star admiral wasn't done lightly, but he had protocols to follow. I'll need to be present during any conversation. That won't be possible. What I need to discuss with Commander Mitchell is classified. Admiral, she's under arrest. I can't simply. Kellerman reached into his uniform pocket and produced a document bearing official seals. This is a security clearance authorization signed by the Secretary of the Navy. It grants me authority to conduct classified discussions with Commander Mitchell, regardless of her current legal status. 5 minutes, Captain, alone. Reeves examined the document. It appeared legitimate, with proper signatures and seals. He had never seen anything quite like it, but the weight of authority it carried was unmistakable. 5 minutes, he finally agreed. But my officers will be right outside. Understood. Reeves led Kellerman to the interrogation room, dismissing Chen and Davis with a gesture. As the Admiral entered, Mitchell's posture changed subtly, still controlled, but with a hint of relief in her eyes. The door closed. Through the one-way glass, the police officers watched as Kellerman approached Mitchell. He said something too quiet for the audio feed to catch clearly, then reached out and removed her handcuffs himself. Did he just uncuff a suspect? Chen asked, INCREDULOUSLY. Davis was already reaching for the door handle when Captain Reeves stopped him. Hold position. Let's see what happens. In the interrogation room, Kellerman took the seat across from Mitchell. Report. Parade assignment, sir. Surveillance of persons of interest in the veteran community. I was made by someone claiming Marine service who questioned my credentials. Your cover should have held. It did, sir, until he asked about my time in Fallujah. I gave the correct time frame and unit designation, but he pressed for specific details about operations. I maintained cover by being vague, which apparently raised his suspicions. Kellerman nodded slowly. Understandable. These veterans know their history. Any compromise of operational security? No, sir. I followed protocol and requested legal counsel immediately upon arrest. Good. Kellerman leaned back. This is going to complicate things. I apologize, Admiral. I should have. He held up a hand. You followed procedures correctly. The issue is that now we need to either maintain your cover story, which means you face charges, or reveal your actual status, which exposes an ongoing operation. I'll accept whatever consequences. That's not your decision to make. Commander. Kellerman stood and moved to the door, opening it to find Captain Reeves waiting. Captain, I need to make a call. Is there somewhere Private Eye can do that? My office, sir. In Reeves's office, Kellerman used a secured phone to contact Naval Intelligence Headquarters. The conversation lasted 15 minutes, during which Reeves waited outside. His mind racing with questions. When Kellerman emerged, his expression was grave. Captain, I have authorization to brief you on a classified matter. What I'm about to tell you cannot leave this room without proper clearance. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Commander Sarah Mitchell is not impersonating a military officer. She is an active-duty naval intelligence officer working undercover. Her service record is classified due to the nature of her assignments. Reeves felt his understanding of the situation shift. Undercover in my city. Doing what? Investigating potential security threats within veteran communities. We've had intelligence suggesting certain groups are being targeted for recruitment by hostile foreign actors. Commander Mitchell was tasked with identifying and tracking these individuals. And you couldn't inform local law enforcement? The fewer people who know about an intelligence operation, the better its chances of success. No offense intended, Captain, but information leaks happen. Reeves bristled slightly, but understood the logic. So what happens now? Now, I need you to release Commander Mitchell into my custody. Her cover is compromised, so this operation is effectively terminated. What about the charges? There will be no charges. She's a commissioned officer in good standing. The stolen Valor accusation was based on incomplete information. Reeves considered this. Something still bothered him. Admiral, with respect. If her service record is so classified that it doesn't show up in standard databases, how did you arrive here so quickly after her arrest? Kellerman's expression remained neutral. Commander Mitchell called an emergency contact number. That number routes to a duty officer who immediately notified me of her situation. That's remarkably efficient. It has to be, Captain. Intelligence officers working undercover need to know they can get support quickly if compromised. It made sense, but Reeves's instincts were still nagging at him. I'll need documentation for my files, something that explains why we're releasing her. You'll have it within the hour. Signed by appropriate authorities. All right, Admiral. I'll release her to your custody. As they returned to the observation room, Chen and Davis looked up expectantly. Reeves gestured for them to follow him outside. "The situation has changed," he told them quietly. "Miss Mitchell is actually Commander Mitchell, Naval Intelligence. Her arrest was a mistake based on incomplete information. We're releasing her to Admiral Kellerman's custody." Chen's eyes widened. "She's really military." "Yes. Her records are classified, which is why they didn't appear in our search. This is going to be documented properly, but the Admiral is taking responsibility for her." Davis frowned. "Seems convenient." "It is what it is, Sergeant. We're releasing her." "That's an order." Back in the interrogation room, Kellerman helped Mitchell to her feet. "We'll debrief properly once we're secure. For now, let's get you out of here." "Yes, sir." As they moved through the precinct toward the exit, officers watched with curiosity. The woman who had been arrested for stolen valor was now walking out with a 2-star. Admiral, like she owned the place. Outside, a black Navy sedan waited. Kellerman's security detail held the doors as he and Mitchell climbed in. As the vehicle pulled away, Chen stood on the precinct steps, watching it disappear into traffic. "You buy that story?" Davis asked beside him. "Which part?" "All of it. Naval Intelligence. Classified records. An admiral showing up within minutes." Chen shrugged. "Above our pay grade, Tom. But yeah, something doesn't sit right." Inside the sedan, Mitchell finally allowed herself to relax slightly. "Thank you for the extraction, sir." Kellerman didn't smile. "Don't thank me yet. We have a bigger problem than your blown cover." "Sir?" "The man who identified you. The one claiming Marine service. We've been tracking him for 3 weeks. He's one of our primary targets." Mitchell's expression sharpened. "He made me deliberately." "Possibly. Or you were incredibly unlucky. Either way, he knows there's an intelligence presence now. That's going to make our job significantly harder. What do you need from me?" "Full debrief on your conversation with him. Every word, every detail. Then we need to determine if he was testing you or if it was coincidence." The sedan navigated through afternoon traffic, heading toward Naval Intelligence offices across town. Mitchell stared out the window, replaying the encounter in her mind. "Admiral, there's something else." "Go on." "When he questioned me, he used specific terminology. Operator's language. Not the kind of thing civilians or even regular military would know. You think he's legitimate? I think he's had training. Real training. Whether he's Marine Corps or something else, I can't say. But he wasn't faking the knowledge." Kellerman absorbed this. "That complicates the profile." "Yes, sir." They rode in silence for a moment before Kellerman spoke again. "Commander, how long have you been with Shadow Wolf?" Mitchell hesitated. The question seemed simple, but the weight behind it was significant. 3 years, sir. And in those 3 years, how many operations have been compromised?" "None, sir. Not until today." "Exactly. Shadow Wolf has maintained perfect operational security for its entire existence. We've successfully placed intelligence officers in dozens of sensitive environments without detection. One blown cover doesn't change that." "I understand, sir. Do you?" "Because what I need you to understand is that this incident is going to generate questions. Questions from people who don't have clearance to know what Shadow Wolf is or what we do. The police captain back there is going to wonder why an admiral personally retrieved a supposedly low-level intelligence officer. He's going to ask questions." Mitchell met his gaze. "Are you suggesting my cover story won't hold?" "I'm saying we need to be prepared for increased scrutiny. Shadow Wolf operates in the shadows precisely because no one knows we exist. Now we've left footprints." The sedan pulled into a secure parking facility beneath a nondescript office building. As they exited, Kellerman's phone buzzed. He checked the message, and his expression darkened. Change of plans. Conference room 3. Now, it took an elevator to the 4th floor, emerging into a corridor that required 3 separate security checkpoints. At the final door, Kellerman pressed his palm against a biometric scanner. The lock clicked open. The conference room beyond was occupied by 4 people, all in Navy uniforms. Mitchell recognized 2 of them, Captain Rodriguez from Counterintelligence and Commander Harris from Operations. The other 2 were unfamiliar. Admiral on deck, Rodriguez called, everyone standing, at ease. Kellerman gestured for Mitchell to take a seat. Let's hear it. Rodriguez activated a wall screen displaying surveillance footage. Sir, this is from the parade earlier today. We pulled all available camera feeds from the area. The footage showed Mitchell in uniform, moving through crowds of veterans. The timestamp indicated it was taken about 30 minutes before her arrest. Watch the man in the red cap, Rodriguez said. A figure appeared in frame, keeping pace with Mitchell about 20 feet back. He wore civilian clothes, jeans, a red baseball cap, jacket. His face was partially obscured, but his movements were deliberate. He's tracking her, Harris observed. For 6 blocks, Rodriguez confirmed. He maintains visual contact the entire time, staying just far enough back to avoid obvious surveillance detection. The footage cut to a different angle. This one showing the moment Mitchell was approached by another man, presumably the one who had questioned her service. This is interesting, Rodriguez zoomed in. The man who confronted Commander Mitchell about her service is not the same person who was following her. Mitchell leaned forward. 2 separate individuals. Yes, the tail in the red cap never approaches. He stays in position, watching. Then, 30 seconds after the confrontation begins, he disappears. Kellerman's jaw tightened. Professional surveillance. That's our assessment, sir. The man who questioned her credentials was likely a cutout. Someone expendable who could test her without risking the primary surveillance asset. Do we have ID on either of them? Working on it. Facial recognition is running now, but the red cap's face is largely obscured. Might be deliberate. Mitchell studied the frozen image of the man who had confronted her. He told me he was Marine Corps' Force Recon. Served in Fallujah. Harris pulled up a separate file. We're checking that claim against service records. If he's legitimate, we'll find him. If he's not, that tells us something too. Either way, they were prepared for me, Mitchell said. This wasn't coincidence. Kellerman nodded grimly. Shadow Wolf has been compromised. The question is, how badly? A tense silence filled the room. Shadow Wolf was one of Naval Intelligence's most closely guarded operations, and even within the intelligence community, few knew of its existence. The program placed specially trained officers undercover in civilian environments to identify and track security threats. It had been wildly successful precisely because it was so secretive. Recommendation? Kellerman asked. Rodriguez spoke first. Immediate suspension of all active Shadow Wolf operations until we can determine the extent of the compromise. That's premature, Harris countered. We have 15 officers currently deployed. Pulling them all out simultaneously will create exactly the kind of attention we're trying to avoid. Leaving them in place while we have a potential security breach is reckless. Gentlemen, Kellerman interrupted. Captain Rodriguez, I want a threat assessment on all active operations within 12 hours. Commander Harris, begin developing extraction protocols for our deployed officers that won't compromise their covers. Commander Mitchell, you're going to work with both of them to analyze today's incident. Yes, sir. And someone find out who these men are. I want names, backgrounds, everything. If Shadow Wolf has been targeted specifically, I need to know by whom and why. The meeting continued for another hour, dissecting every aspect of Mitchell's blown cover. By the time they finished, it was early evening. Mitchell was exhausted, the adrenaline of the day finally catching up to her. As the others filed out, Kellerman gestured for her to remain. When they were alone, his demeanor softened slightly. How are you holding up? I'm fine, sir. Sarah, You were arrested and handcuffed. Your operation is blown. It's okay to not be fine. She appreciated the concern but kept her composure. I knew the risks when I joined Shadow Wolf. That doesn't make it easier when things go sideways. He paused. I need to ask you something, and I need complete honesty. Of course, sir. In the 3 years you've been with Shadow Wolf, have you ever felt like you were being watched? Followed any indication that someone was aware of your real identity? Mitchell considered carefully. No, sir. Not until today. You're certain. As certain as I can be. I've maintained strict operational security. No contacts outside approved channels. No deviation from cover protocols. Kellerman studied her face, searching for any sign of deception or uncertainty. Finally, he nodded. All right. I believe you. Which means the leak, if there is one, came from somewhere else. Or they've been tracking Shadow Wolf generally, not me specifically. That's what worries me. If someone has identified the program itself, every officer we have in the field is potentially compromised. What do you want me to do, sir? For now, you're on administrative leave. Officially, you're recovering from the stress of today's incident. Unofficially, I want you to think about everything that happened. Every detail, no matter how small. If there's something we're missing, I need you to find it. And if there's nothing to find, if this was just bad luck, then we adjust and move forward. But I don't believe in coincidences, Commander. Not in this line of work. Mitchell left the building as night fell over the city. Her personal vehicle, retrieved from an impound lot, felt strange after the day's events. She drove on autopilot, her mind churning through possibilities. Shadow Wolf had always operated on the principle of perfect secrecy. Officers were carefully selected, thoroughly trained, and given deep cover identities that could withstand significant scrutiny. The idea that someone had penetrated that security was deeply troubling as she pulled into her apartment complex. Mitchell performed her routine security check. Nothing out of place, no signs of tampering. Inside her apartment, everything was exactly as she had left it that morning. She changed out of her uniform, hanging it carefully in the closet. The medals caught the light, representing achievements and operations that officially never happened. Her entire career with Shadow Wolf existed in classified files that most people in the military would never see. Her phone buzzed. A text from Kellerman. Facial recognition got a hit. Conference call tomorrow, 0800. Be ready. Mitchell stared at the message. Less than 12 hours, and they already had an identification. That was fast. Too fast, perhaps. She typed a response. Understood, sir. She tried to sleep, but found herself replaying the encounter with the man at the parade. His questions had been probing, but not overtly hostile. He had seemed genuinely concerned about stolen valor, which was common among actual veterans. But the surveillance footage suggested something more calculated. At 0300, unable to sleep, Mitchell got up and made coffee. She opened her laptop and accessed the secure network using her credentials. The surveillance footage was there, along with preliminary analysis from Rodriguez's team. She watched the man in the red cap track her through the crowd. His movements were smooth, professional. Not military in the rigid sense, but controlled, experienced. He knew how to maintain a surveillance position without being obvious. The man who had confronted her was different. More aggressive, more direct. A different skill set entirely. That suggested they were working together, but had different roles. One to observe, one to probe. Mitchell zoomed in on the confrontation moment. She could see herself responding to his questions, maintaining her cover even as he pressed for details. Had she given something away without realizing it? Some subtle tell that betrayed her true nature. She didn't think so, but doubt was a dangerous thing in intelligence work. At 0800, she joined the conference call from her secure laptop. Kellerman appeared on screen, along with Rodriguez and two analysts she didn't recognize. "Good morning, Commander Mitchell," Kellerman began. "We have developments." "Captain Rodriguez." Rodriguez's face filled the screen. "The man who confronted you at the parade has been identified. His name is Marcus Thorne, age 42, former Marine Corps gunnery sergeant. He served 3 tours in Iraq, including Fallujah, exactly as he claimed." Mitchell felt a chill. So he was legitimate. Gets better. Or worse, depending on your perspective. Thorne was decorated twice for Valor, received a medical discharge 8 years ago due to injuries sustained in combat. Since then, he's been active in veteran advocacy groups, particularly those focused on stolen valor cases. He's a regular watchdog for military imposters, one of the analysts added. Has a website dedicated to exposing fake veterans. He's personally responsible for dozens of stolen valor arrests over the past 5 years. Mitchell processed this. So his approach to me was consistent with his known behavior pattern. Exactly. Which makes it harder to determine if he was specifically targeting you or if you just happened to trip his radar. What about the man in the red cap? The one who was tailing me. Rodriguez's expression darkened. That's where things get interesting. We got a partial facial recognition match, ran it through multiple databases. His name is Viktor Petrov, former Russian military intelligence officer. The room fell silent. Russian intelligence changed the entire complexion of the situation. How certain are we about this identification? Kellerman asked. 75% confidence on the facial recognition. But we cross-referenced with known GRU operatives active in the United States. And Petrov's name appeared on a watch list from 2 years ago. He was suspected of running surveillance operations against military personnel in the San Diego area. San Diego was where we ran Operation Silent Harbor, Kellerman said quietly. One of Shadow Wolf's first major successes. Yes, sir. If Petrov was active in that area at that time, he may have identified the operation, or at least suspected something unusual was happening. Mitchell's mind raced. If Russian intelligence had been tracking Shadow Wolf for 2 years, they could have compromised multiple operations. Sir, we need to review every Shadow Wolf deployment. If they've been watching us, they might have identified other officers. Already in progress, Kellerman confirmed. But here's what concerns me most. If Petrov has been tracking Shadow Wolf, why expose himself now? Why burn an asset like Thorne by having him confront you publicly? Rodriguez offered an answer. Perhaps they wanted to send a message. Let us know they're aware of our operations, or they needed to confirm something, one of the analysts suggested. Maybe they suspected Commander Mitchell was intelligence but needed proof. Her reaction to questioning would tell them what they needed to know. But I maintained cover, Mitchell protested. I didn't admit anything. You didn't need to, the analyst replied. Your training would have been evident in how you handled the situation. A real stolen valor case would have crumbled under that kind of pressure. You didn't. That alone could have confirmed their suspicions. Kellerman leaned back in his chair, visibly troubled. So we have Russian intelligence actively surveilling Shadow Wolf operations, using civilian assets to probe our officers, and potentially compromising our entire program. The question is, what do we do about it? We shut down Shadow Wolf, Rodriguez said immediately. Extract all deployed officers and suspend operations indefinitely. That hands them a victory, Harris countered, joining the call. They expose us, we retreat. That's exactly what they want. What they want is irrelevant. Our officers are at risk. Our officers knew the risks. And Shadow Wolf provides critical intelligence we can't get any other way. Gentlemen, Kellerman interrupted, both of you make valid points. But the decision isn't mine alone to make. I'm briefing the Chief of Naval Operations at 1,000 hours. He'll need to make the call. The call continued for another 30 minutes, discussing protocols and contingencies. By the end, Mitchell felt the weight of the situation pressing down on her. Shadow Wolf had been her life for 3 years. The idea that it might be shut down because of her blown cover was difficult to accept. After the call ended, Kellerman messaged her privately, "This isn't your fault. Sarah, remember that." She wanted to believe him. But in intelligence work, fault was often less important than consequences. And the consequences of yesterday's incident were still unfolding. Mitchell spent the rest of the morning reviewing her own operational history, looking for any signs she might have missed. Any indication that she was being watched or followed before yesterday. She found nothing obvious, but that didn't mean nothing was there. At noon, her phone rang. "Kellerman, Commander, we have a situation. Can you get to the office immediately?" "Yes, sir." "What's happened?" "Just get here, now." The urgency in his voice left no room for questions. Mitchell grabbed her keys and headed for the door. Whatever had developed was serious enough to bypass normal protocols. The drive to Naval Intelligence Headquarters took 20 minutes in midday traffic. By the time she arrived, 2 other Shadow Wolf officers were already there. Both looking as confused as she felt. Kellerman met them in the secure conference room. His expression was grave. 40 minutes ago, the Naval Criminal Investigative Service received an anonymous tip. Someone claiming to have evidence of compromised intelligence operations. They specifically mentioned Shadow Wolf by name. Mitchell felt her stomach drop. "Sir, that's impossible. The program name is classified." "I know. Which means whoever sent this tip has access to highly classified information." Kellerman activated the wall screen. But it gets worse. The tip included this. The screen displayed a photograph. Mitchell recognized it immediately. It was her, in civilian clothes, entering the Naval Intelligence Headquarters 6 months ago. The metadata showed the date and time, proving it wasn't a recent image. "They've been watching us," she said quietly. "For months, at least." "Yes, and they want us to know it." Kellerman displayed another image. This one showed Commander Harris entering the same building, different date. Then another officer, and another. 5 in total, all Shadow Wolf operatives. All photographed entering Naval Intelligence Headquarters at various times over the past year. "They've identified at least 5 of our officers," Rodriguez said, his voice tight. "Maybe more." "How did NCIS respond to the tip?" One of the other officers asked. "They're treating it as a potential security breach. An investigative team is being assembled as we speak. They don't know what Shadow Wolf is yet, but they will soon." Mitchell understood the implications. NCIS discovering Shadow Wolf would mean congressional briefings, oversight committees, and the end of operational secrecy. The program couldn't function if it became public knowledge. "What are our orders, sir?" She asked. Kellerman looked at each of them in turn. "As of this moment, Shadow Wolf is suspended. All active operations are terminated. We're extracting our deployed officers starting immediately. You 3 are to report to operations for debriefing and administrative processing. Until further notice, you're on indefinite leave." "Sir, we can't just shut down. It's already done, Commander." The CNO made the call 30 minutes ago. Shadow Wolf is finished. The silence in the conference room was absolute. Mitchell watched as Kellerman's words settled over them like a death sentence. Shadow Wolf, the program she had dedicated 3 years of her life to, was finished. Sir Commander Harris spoke up, his voice strained. "With respect, shutting down now gives them exactly what they want. If Russian intelligence has been tracking us, our retreat confirms everything they suspected." "I'm aware of that, Commander. But we have no choice. The program's existence has been compromised at the highest levels." Rodriguez pulled up another image on the screen. "There's more." The anonymous tip included operational details, dates of deployments, target locations, even some mission outcomes. Whoever sent this has access to classified files. Mitchell felt cold realization wash over her. You're saying the leak came from inside? That's the working theory. NCA's is conducting a full investigation of everyone with access to Shadow Wolf files. How many people have that access? One of the other officers asked. Fewer than 20, Kellerman replied. All with top-secret clearance. All thoroughly vetted. And yet, somehow, information got out. Mitchell's mind raced through the possibilities. An insider betraying the program was worse than external surveillance. It meant everything they had done, every operation, every piece of intelligence gathered was potentially compromised. What happens to us? She asked quietly. Kellerman's expression softened slightly. You'll be reassigned. Your covers are blown, so field operations are no longer an option. But your skills and experience are valuable. We'll find places for you, just not in intelligence work. Not undercover work. No. The risk is too high now. Anyone who knows about Shadow Wolf could potentially identify you. The meeting continued for another hour, covering logistics and protocols. By the end, Mitchell felt hollowed out. Everything she had trained for, everything she had become, was being stripped away because someone had betrayed them. As the others filed out, Kellerman caught her arm. Commander, a word. When they were alone, he closed the door and activated the room's privacy measures. The subtle hum of white noise generators filled the space. What I'm about to tell you stays between us. Understood? Yes, sir. The investigation into the leak is already showing results. NCIS found unusual activity in the secure network logs. Someone accessed Shadow Wolf files repeatedly over the past 6 months, downloading operational data to an external device. Do they know who? They're narrowing it down. But here's what's interesting. The access pattern suggests someone with intimate knowledge of the program's structure. Not just a random analyst with clearance, but someone who knew exactly what to look for. Mitchell's breath caught. Someone from Shadow Wolf itself. That's what we think. One of our own. The betrayal cut deeper than she had imagined. Who? We don't know yet. But NCIS is confident they'll have an answer within 48 hours. Kellerman paused. In the meantime, I need you to do something for me. Anything. Sir, think about everyone you've worked with in Shadow Wolf. Anyone who seemed off. Who asked too many questions, who had access to information they shouldn't have needed. I know it's a difficult thing to ask, but if there's a traitor in our ranks, we need to find them. Mitchell nodded slowly. I'll make a list. Good, and Commander, be careful. If the insider realizes we're closing in, they might take action to protect themselves. That evening, Mitchell sat in her apartment reviewing 3 years of memories. Every mission briefing, every training session, every casual conversation with fellow operatives. Looking for the crack, the flaw, the tell that would identify the traitor. She pulled up the secure database on her laptop. Accessing personnel files for everyone connected to Shadow Wolf. 23 people in total. Kellerman, Rodriguez, Harris, and the 15 field officers. Plus 5 support staff with access to operational data. She studied each face. Each service record, looking for something that didn't fit. Everyone had impeccable credentials. Multiple deployments, distinguished service, top security clearances. Any of them could be the leak. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stop looking. You won't like what you find. Mitchell's training kicked in immediately. She didn't respond. Instead, she took a screenshot and forwarded it to Kellerman with a brief message. Received threat. Unknown sender. His response came within seconds. Location locked. Security team en route to you now. Stay inside. 5 minutes later, her apartment door buzzer sounded. Through the security camera, she saw 2 Navy security personnel in civilian clothes. She recognized one of them from Kellerman's detail. Commander Mitchell, we're here to escort you to a secure location. On whose authority? Admiral Kellerman. Ma'am, we need to move now. Mitchell grabbed her go-bag, always packed and ready, and followed them out. The sedan outside was the same one that had taken her from the police precinct. It felt like a lifetime ago. Though it had been less than 48 hours, they drove in silence through darkening streets, eventually arriving at a secure Navy facility she had never visited before. Underground parking, multiple security checkpoints, and finally, a bunker-like room with reinforced walls and no windows. Kellerman was waiting inside, along with 2 NCIS agents she didn't recognize. Commander, thank you for coming. These are Special Agents Torres and Yamamoto from NCIS Counterintelligence. Agent Torres spoke first. Commander Mitchell, we've been investigating the Shadow Wolf leak. We have some questions for you. Mitchell felt her pulse quicken, but kept her voice steady. Of course, you received a threatening text message approximately 30 minutes ago. Can you tell us about any recent contacts or communications that seemed unusual? Nothing beyond normal operational channels. Until tonight, I had no indication anyone was targeting me personally. Yamamoto consulted a tablet. We've traced the phone number that sent the threat. It's a burner purchased with cash 2 days ago in downtown Washington. Whoever sent it knew you'd report it, knew we'd investigate. They wanted to be untraceable. Why send it at all then? Mitchell asked. To make a point, Torres replied. To show they can reach you whenever they want. Kellerman interjected. We've made progress on the network intrusion. NCAs has identified the account used to access Shadow Wolf files. Mitchell waited, dreading what came next. It was Commander Harris's credentials. She felt the shock like a physical blow. Harris had been with Shadow Wolf from the beginning, one of the program's architects. You're certain? The digital forensics are conclusive, Yamamoto said. His login credentials accessed classified files over 60 times in the past 6 months. Each time, data was copied to an external device. Where is Harris now? We don't know. He didn't report for duty this morning. His apartment is empty and his phone is offline. We believe he realized we were closing in and ran. Mitchell's mind reeled. Harris had worked alongside her, had been responsible for mission planning and operational security. If he was the leak, everything Shadow Wolf had done was compromised. Why would he do this? She asked, though she knew the question was probably unanswerable. Torres opened a folder containing surveillance photos. We've been digging into Harris's background. 3 months ago, he received a wire transfer of $50,000 to an offshore account we didn't know he had. 2 more transfers followed, each for similar amounts. The money came from a shell corporation with ties to Russian intelligence. He sold us out, Mitchell said flatly. Appears that way. The timeline matches perfectly. His financial troubles, the sudden influx of cash, the data breaches, he gave them everything. Kellerman looked older than he had that morning. Commander Harris knew every Shadow Wolf officer, every operation, every target. If he's been working with Russian intelligence, they have our entire playbook. Which explains how they knew to have Viktor Petrov tail me, Mitchell realized. Harris would have known my assignment, my cover, everything. Exactly. And the confrontation with Marcus Thorne wasn't coincidence. They used Thorne, a legitimate stolen Valor watchdog, to test you. Harris would have known that approach would be credible, would put you in an impossible position. Agent Yamamoto leaned forward. Commander, we need your help. Harris knows our procedures, knows how we'll look for him. But you worked with him closely. You might know things about him that aren't in any file. Mitchell thought carefully. He had a cabin in western Maryland. Mentioned it once during a training exercise. Said it was his retreat when he needed to think. We'll check it out, Torres said, making notes. Anything else? He was careful about technology. Never used his personal phone for sensitive communications. Always went through secure channels. But he had a tell. When he was stressed or lying, he'd touch his right ear. Just a brief gesture, like adjusting an earring he wasn't wearing. That's helpful. Anything else about his behavior patterns? Mitchell searched her memory. He was methodical. Everything planned to the smallest detail. If he's running, he'll have thought through every contingency. Safe houses, escape routes, fallback positions. He won't be easy to find. The interrogation continued for 2 more hours, covering every interaction Mitchell had ever had with Harris. Every conversation, every mission, they had worked together. By the end, she was exhausted. "Commander, you'll need to stay here tonight," Kellerman said. "This facility is secure. Until we locate Harris, we can't risk him targeting you or the other Shadow Wolf officers. Do you think he would?" "I think a man who betrayed his country and his fellow officers is capable of anything." Mitchell was shown to a small room with basic amenities. A bed, desk, and bathroom. No windows. She tried to sleep, but couldn't stop thinking about Harris. About how someone she had trusted, someone they had all trusted, had sold them out for money. At 0200, her phone buzzed. Another message from the unknown number. Harris is just the beginning. Shadow Wolf was never really secret. She reported it immediately. Kellerman arrived within minutes, looking haggard. "Sir, what does that message mean?" "Harris is just the beginning." "I don't know." But NCIS is treating it as a credible threat. They believe there may be more than one insider. The investigation expanded rapidly. Every person with access to Shadow Wolf files was questioned. Their finances examined, their communications monitored. The secure facility became a command center for a mole hunt that consumed the entire intelligence directorate. On the 3rd day, the breakthrough came. Agent Torres burst into the conference room where Mitchell was reviewing case files. "We found him, Harris. He's in a motel outside Baltimore." Kellerman stood immediately. "How certain are you?" "Facial recognition from a gas station camera near the motel. He's using a fake ID, but the system matched him with 93% confidence. FBI hostage rescue team is mobilizing now." "I want to be there," Mitchell said. Kellerman shook his head. "That's not advisable, Commander. Sir, with respect, I deserve to see this through. Harris betrayed all of us. I need to face him." After a long pause, Kellerman nodded. "All right. But you're an observer only. No direct contact." The drive to Baltimore took 45 minutes. Convoy of vehicles containing NCIS agents, FBI operators, and naval intelligence personnel. The motel was a run-down establishment on the outskirts of the city. The kind of place that didn't ask questions. FBI set up a perimeter, while NCIS coordinated the approach. Mitchell watched from a command vehicle as the tactical team moved into position. "Room 217, Torres confirmed. Heat signature shows one person inside, stationary. Could be sleeping," Yamamoto suggested, "or waiting for us." Kellerman added grimly. The team breached the door with practiced efficiency. Flashbangs, then entry. Shouts of clear echoed over the radio. "We need medical. Subject is down. Gunshot wound to the head." Mitchell felt her stomach turn. Harris had known they were coming and had chosen his own way out. She accompanied Kellerman into the motel room. Harris lay on the bed, a pistol beside him, blood pooling on the cheap comforter. On the desk nearby, a laptop was open, displaying a document. Agent Torres approached it carefully. "Looks like a confession. He's detailing everything. The Russians approached him 2 years ago. Financial pressure, threats against his family, classic intelligence recruitment. He provided operational data in exchange for money and protection for his family. Protection they never planned to provide," Mitchell said quietly. "No. According to this, They were planning to expose him regardless. Use him as a disposable asset to burn Shadow Wolf, then discard him. Kellerman read over Torres's shoulder. He realized he was trapped. No way out, that didn't end in prison or worse. So he took the third option. Mitchell couldn't summon sympathy. Harris had betrayed everything they stood for, had endangered his fellow officers, had sold classified information to an adversary. His suicide was a coward's escape from accountability. "There's more," Torres continued. He names another contact. Someone else in naval intelligence who was helping him access files. The room fell silent. "Who?" Kellerman demanded. Torres turned the laptop so they could see. The name on the screen made Mitchell's blood run cold. "Captain Rodriguez." "That's impossible," she said immediately. "Rodriguez has been leading the investigation." "Best cover imaginable," Yamamoto replied. "Put yourself in charge of finding the leak. You control what gets discovered and when." Kellerman's face was ashen. "Where is Rodriguez now?" "He was at headquarters an hour ago, supervising data analysis." "Get NCIS agents there immediately." "I want him detained for questioning." But when agents arrived at Naval Intelligence Headquarters, Rodriguez was gone. His office cleaned out, his computer wiped, his phone abandoned on his desk. He had vanished. The following days were a whirlwind of investigation and damage control. Rodriguez's betrayal cut even deeper than Harris's. He had been a senior officer with decades of service, trusted at the highest levels. His access to classified information was nearly unlimited. NCIS eventually pieced together the full picture. Rodriguez had been recruited by Russian intelligence 5 years earlier, during a trip to Eastern Europe. They had compromised him with a combination of blackmail and financial incentives, then had patiently waited for him to be positioned where he could do maximum damage when Shadow Wolf was created. Rodriguez had maneuvered to be assigned to its oversight team. From there, he had systematically compromised the program, feeding information to his handlers while appearing to be its staunchest protector. He had recruited Harris, who needed money, and had orchestrated the exposure of Shadow Wolf. When Russian intelligence decided the program had outlived its usefulness, Mitchell learned all this in briefings. Grew progressively more disturbing. The scale of the betrayal was staggering. Not just Shadow Wolf, but dozens of other operations had been compromised by Rodriguez over the years. How many people died because of him? She asked Kellerman during one late-night session. We may never know the full count, but NCIS estimates at least 15 intelligence sources were captured or killed in the past 3 years due to compromised operations. The weight of that loss was crushing. 15 people who had trusted the United States, who had risked everything to provide intelligence, dead because one man chose money over honor. 3 weeks after Harris's suicide, Interpol located Rodriguez in Moscow. He had been granted asylum by the Russian government, given a comfortable apartment and a salary for his continued cooperation. The photos that surfaced showed him looking relaxed, even happy. "He'll never face justice," Mitchell said, staring at the images on Kellerman's computer. "Not in a courtroom, no. But he'll spend the rest of his life knowing he can never return home, can never see his family, can never be anything other than a traitor who sold out his country. That's its own kind of prison." The Shadow Wolf program was officially terminated. All its operations were shut down, its files sealed under the highest classification. The 15 field officers were reassigned to various positions within naval intelligence. Their covers permanently blown. Mitchell was offered a position training new intelligence officers. It wasn't field work, but it was important. She accepted, recognizing that her career in covert operations was finished. 1 month after her arrest for stolen valor, she stood before a class of intelligence trainees at Naval Intelligence Headquarters. Many of them knew nothing about Shadow Wolf, only that she was a decorated officer with extensive field experience. Today, we're going to talk about trust, she began. In intelligence work, trust is everything. You trust your handlers. You trust your fellow officers. You trust the system. But trust must be earned and constantly verified, because the moment you stop questioning, the moment you assume everyone is who they claim to be, you create vulnerability. She thought of Rodriguez, of Harris, of how completely they had fooled everyone, of how a program built on secrecy had been destroyed by secrets kept from those who should have known. You will face betrayal in this career, she continued. It's inevitable. People will lie. Systems will fail. The question isn't whether betrayal will happen, but how you respond when it does. Do you give up? Do you become cynical? Or do you learn, adapt, and continue the mission? After the class, Kellerman found her in her office. Good session today. Thank you, sir. I wanted you to know. The CNO approved commendations for all Shadow Wolf officers. Classified, of course, but recognition nonetheless for your service. Mitchell smiled slightly. Let me guess. We can't wear them or tell anyone about them. Exactly. The nature of intelligence work. He paused. But you should know that what you and the others accomplished in Shadow Wolf mattered. The intelligence you gathered prevented attacks, saved lives, protected national security. Rodriguez and Harris may have compromised the program, but they couldn't erase what you achieved. It doesn't feel like achievement, sir. It feels like failure. That's because you're focused on how it ended. Try focusing on what you did before it ended. 3 years of successful operations. Dozens of high-value intelligence collections. Not one innocent life lost due to your actions. That's what matters. Mitchell nodded, wanting to believe him. What happens now? With Shadow Wolf gone, how do we gather that kind of intelligence? We adapt. Create new programs with better security protocols. Learn from our mistakes. The Russians may have won this round, but the game continues. He smiled. And who knows? Maybe someday there will be a Shadow Wolf 2.0, with better safeguards and people like you running it. 6 months later, Mitchell had settled into her new role. Training was challenging work, satisfying in its own way. She was shaping the next generation of intelligence officers, teaching them from her own hard-won experience. One afternoon, Admiral Kellerman called her to his office. When she arrived, she found him with an unfamiliar Navy captain. Commander Mitchell, this is Captain Sarah Chen, newly assigned to Special Programs Division. They shook hands. Chen had an air of competence about her, the kind of quiet confidence that came from real experience. Captain Chen is developing a new intelligence initiative, Kellerman explained. Something similar to Shadow Wolf, but with enhanced security measures and oversight. She's asked specifically for you to be involved. Mitchell looked between them. I'm honored, but I'm not sure I'm the right person. My cover is blown, not for fieldwork, Chen clarified. For program development and training. We need people who understand what went wrong with Shadow Wolf so we can build something better. People who lived through the compromise and learned from it. Mitchell considered. Could she do it again? Build another program, knowing how completely the last one had been betrayed. Then she thought of the trainees she had been working with, eager young officers ready to serve their country. They deserved the best training, the best programs, the best chance of success. What's the program called? She asked. Chun smiled. Ghost Protocol, and it's going to be everything Shadow Wolf should have been. As Mitchell listened to Chen outline the new program, she felt something she hadn't felt in months: purpose. The betrayal of Shadow Wolf had been devastating, but it had also taught valuable lessons. Ghost Protocol would be built on those lessons, stronger and more secure than its predecessor. I'm in, Mitchell said finally. But on one condition, name it, we memorialize the Shadow Wolf officers somewhere. Not publicly, but internally. So everyone who works on Ghost Protocol understands what we're building on and why security matters. Kellerman nodded approvingly. I'll make it happen. 3 months later, a small classified memorial was installed in a secure area of Naval Intelligence Headquarters. It bore no names, just a simple inscription, to those who served in shadow. Your sacrifice illuminated the path forward. Mitchell stood before it alone, late one evening, thinking about everything that had happened. The arrest, the investigation, the betrayals, the lessons learned. It had been the hardest 6 months of her career, but she had survived it. More than survived it. She had learned from it. Her phone buzzed. A message from one of her trainees: just got assigned to my first field operation. Thank you for everything you taught me. Mitchell smiled. This was the work now. Not the adrenaline of undercover operations, but the quieter satisfaction of preparing others for that work, of teaching them to be smarter, more careful, more aware than she had been. She typed a response. Trust your training. Trust your team. And always, always verify. As she left the building and stepped into the cool evening air, Mitchell felt at peace for the first time since that day at the parade. Shadow Wolf was gone, but its legacy continued. In the lessons learned, in the safeguards implemented, and in the next generation of officers who would carry forward the mission. The work continued, as it always had and always would, in the shadows where necessary, but illuminated by the truth that had been won at such cost. Justice wasn't always served in courtrooms. Sometimes it was served in the quiet determination to do better, to build better, to be better than those who had betrayed the trust placed in them. And that, Mitchell decided, was enough. If you believe in second chances and the power of learning from failure, share your thoughts below. What would you have done in Mitchell's position? Subscribe to see more stories about resilience, redemption, and the quiet heroes who rebuild after everything falls apart.